Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. My name's Sarah and we have a large family, but today I'm actually going to make a video about my dad. So a lot of you have never heard a whole lot about my dad because since I had the channel, my dad, before I had the channel, my dad passed away. So while on this channel, you sometimes hear me talk about my mom, about Mark's mom, maybe even Mark's dad and his siblings. You don't hear me talk about my dad much because my dad passed away 12 years ago this summer. 12? 13? No, 12. 12 years ago this summer. And so we just thought it was appropriate to make a video now. One, that Father's Day is this Sunday. And then next weekend is the anniversary of my dad passing away. We saw someone else make a video like this, and I just wanted to tell you guys some of the things my dad taught me that I have carried on into my family. So my dad was a wonderful guy. People in town loved him. He was well liked. I don't know anyone who didn't like my dad, but he was not perfect. No one here on earth is perfect. And he would tell you he had flaws. But he was very much a people person. My dad was always trying to help people. And if you knew my dad, you would know that that might seem funny to people because my dad had a form of muscular dystrophy, the kind that I have. So if you see in the videos that I kind of walk funny, it's because I wear braces. But my dad was much more affected than me. He's much more affected than Samuel. So my dad was still working full time when he passed away. It was an accident. It wasn't a result of the CMT. So he was still working full time. He was in a wheelchair a lot because it allowed him to save up his energy so that he could use it later in the day to do things. So my dad was always doing community service. He was very big. Our town has a huge 4th of July celebration. There's about 3,000 people in town, and we can have, normally, and we can have up to 10,000 people here for 4th of July. So it's really big. The fire station is the ones who used to put it on. I'm going to put you guys down a little because I feel like I'm having to sit up really straight. The fire station is the one who used to put it on, and my dad worked for the fire station. So every year, 4th of July was super busy because we were helping get stuff ready for, there was a race in the morning that my dad was the organizer of. I always used to say my dad ran the race, but he didn't actually run the race. He organized the race. So we would get up super early, get water cups filled at the halfway point, which was right in front of our house, drive down to where the spot was to register everybody. We'd register. And this was before now they have computers that watch the runners come in. No, Dad would stand there with binoculars after he had, shot the gun or whatever to start the race. As they were coming back, he would stand there with binoculars and he'd call out the number. And my mom and I, or my sister and my mom, multiples of us, would stand on the back of the truck and we'd write down that number. And then we had stopwatches and we'd write down the time on the stopwatches. It was a crazy time, but we loved doing it. Then we always had a big parade. Sometimes we were in the parade, sometimes not. My dad would drive the fire truck, or my sister and I would ride on the fire truck. Sorry, I have a tickle if I sound funny right now. One year I was scheduled to be dress up like a crash test dummy and be in a broken car to talk about car accidents type thing. We ended up being out of town and wasn't able to do it, but that would have been pretty funny. So my dad was super involved. Oh, and then in the afternoon, he went and helped set up all the fireworks to be shot off later. So I really gained from him and try to share with the children, the community workers, the community helpers. So the people that are getting paid and the people that are not getting paid. My dad was a volunteer firefighter, so he put in a lot more hours than he was actually getting paid for. We would go and help clean the station. We would help. It doesn't necessarily work this way anymore, but I'm now 43. So this was when I was 10. We would help with all that stuff. My dad was always helping people move. He was always helping people do all kinds of things. He was just always doing things. And he had enough trouble trying to get around on his own that he could have sat back and said, okay, my job is to just sit here. And I am not trying to force somebody to do something that they can't do. If you physically can't do something. But we also have a lot of people in this country, I know some personally, so I'm talking from experience, that don't push through when things get hard. They sit in their own little comfort bubble and don't extend themselves. And you hear this thing like you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, if you're a mom, you know, sometimes you're empty and you still have to keep giving. Like the baby still needs to eat, even if you're super tired. The baby still needs to get changed, even if you're super tired. And my dad just instilled in me that even when he was tired after a day's work, if someone called and needed help, we were getting in the car and we were going to help because they needed it. Like the reason they asked is because they needed it. My parents love to have people over. We used to host people for like meals and stuff, but also there was a group that traveled around called Up With People that was like a singing group. And my parents would host the guys who would stay in town for a couple nights doing the concerts. Like the guys would get spread up between all kinds of houses. So we'd have a couple guys at our house. My parents ended up going on to be foster parents right around the time we were. And my dad actually took care... Whoops, that was the door. My dad actually took care of an infant by himself because we were supposed to get the infant. We were headed out of town. It was actually 2 kids, but then we had him a second time and only the infant came back. So I don't remember which time, but there was an infant the one time, like 8 months old. And we were out of town or about to go out of town and we couldn't take these children out of town. So we were saying, yes, we'll take the placement, but we can't have them for the first 2 weeks or whatever of the placement. And my dad was like, no, we'll take them. They were foster parents. We'll take them and take care of them until you get back. So there's kind of a continuum of care. They'll still get to see the people who started taking care of them. And my dad did all the baby care. He was, I'm trying to think, probably 50 at this point, taking care of an infant, like had to get all the stuff because they didn't have any bottles in the house or anything like that. My dad was willing to do hard things. Like, let's help this person. Like, that's why they became foster parents, because my dad knew of some kids that were going to need a place. And my dad came home and said, what can we do? And my mom's like, let's be foster parents. And they went through all the classes and everything. At this point, my sister and I had moved out and my parents were going to be empty nesters. They had recently built a house because the house we were in was old and my dad was having more trouble keeping up with it. It was like 1830. And so they had this house built, the one we live in now. But they weren't planning to have any more kids. And then they ended up fostering multiple, I think they had 3 like placements that stayed for quite a while. And then they had like the baby I was just talking about, or they'd have like respite care where you take care of someone just for a weekend or just a couple weeks while they were trying to figure out a different placement. So yeah, my parents did all that. So my dad definitely instilled work ethic and commitment to community into me. He also, he was a Christian. He was a baby Christian until the last few years of his life. He was raised in the Catholic Church and didn't really know the Lord until, about the time I was married. Like, I'd say that. I don't know the exact year. But he grew a lot, but because of his upbringing, he didn't necessarily know what he didn't know because in the Catholic Church, you're taught so many things about the Bible, and some of them are true, and some of them don't line up with Jesus being the only way. And I'm not saying this to offend Catholics that are watching my channel, but the Catholic Church talks about like works and confession and all this stuff that just looks different in the Catholic Church. And some people put more weight on that than on Jesus. And so where he went to church, it was very much, he could follow, like he was an altar boy. He could say the sermon in Latin, but he had no idea what it meant and had no personal relationship with God. So he got that going to a Baptist church with my mom and became a stronger Christian, but still taught us that we should love everyone. My dad was very much we need to see people where they are and love them and tell them the truth. So you can tell the truth. You can tell the truth in love. It's not loving to let somebody live in a lie. And so that was something he taught me. He also, people in town loved him. He was he worked at the fire station and things like that. But during the last few years of his life, he was a school teacher. And for a little while there, if I met somebody who had gone to the school and I mentioned that my dad was Dan Allen, they'd be like, oh, he was my favorite teacher, because he just had a way of making history come alive. He very much brought you in to the things that he loved. And so at times I really wish Samuel had known Grandpa better. Samuel was like 4 when my dad passed away, because Samuel loves history, and the two of them would have gotten together. Would have been like 2 peas in a pod. So even though my dad wasn't perfect, he was a great dad. I have so many memories because my dad would just make things fun. Like, I remember sitting around in a living room with a blown up balloon, and we'd like try to keep the balloon up between the 4 of us. So growing up, it was me and my mom and dad and my sister. And so I remember doing that. I remember going to, my mom was like into music. And so I remember going to my mom's concerts, and my dad was always backing my mom in the things that she loved to do. Like encouraging. He was very encouraging to all of us, and he was encouraging to all my friends. When I was in high school, my house was the place to hang out because everybody loved my parents. And my parents were happily married till the day my dad died. And so, I don't know, we just had a stable house that people could come to, that people saw love. People saw that we cared for each other. People saw that, like, even though we raise our family a lot different than my parents did, in the fact, like, I went to public school, we now homeschool, I stay home, my mom worked, those types of things. I always knew my parents loved me, and I always knew that my parents wanted to spend time with me. My parents went out of their way to make sure that they were at our events, to make sure that they were there to cheer us on for things, to make memories. We went on, like, we'd go on vacation or just go somewhere for a weekend. And they just made sure that we knew they cared about us and loved us as an individual, not just because we were their child, but because that's just how my dad was. So those are some things about my dad that I carry into my family now. And yeah, what do you have memories of about your dad? If you are just a viewer, go ahead and write down in the comments things that you have a favorite memory of your dad to honor him this Father's Day. And if you have your own YouTube channel, put a link to whatever you want to say about your dad. I think that living in a culture where everybody wants to cancel out their parents because they did something wrong is not honoring to our parents. And there are times that we have to distance ourselves for safety. But there are people who cancel their parents because of 1 or 2 incidents that weren't like life-changing, traumatizing type thing, and no longer want to speak to their parents, or will speak poorly of their parents to other people. And the Bible says to honor your parents. It doesn't say you have to obey them. It doesn't say that you have to agree with everything they do, but it does say honor them. So I hope that this just reminds you that this Father's Day, there is probably something in your life that you can honor your father and your mother. Even if they weren't the greatest parents, they probably instilled something in you. We'll see you guys next time on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God.